Welcome to TYT Sports and ROTOWIRE. We are bringing you the Divisional Playoffs Handicapping Special, a name I've made up this second. That's Chris Liss, what's your title? Editor-in-chief?
Managing editor.
Managing editor of ROTOWIRE.
Doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. It means everything. Yeah. It means everything. So let's look at the Saturday games first. New England hosting Baltimore. This line opened, I think, at 7.5 and is now 7.
Yeah, I think that's about right, that line. I'm inclined to take Baltimore personally. They've played 3 times in New England in the last 5 years. I know 5 years ago may as well be 100 years ago for the NFL, but there's a lot of the same personnel. There's a lot of the same key personnel. Obviously, the 2 coaches are the same. The systems are similar. Brady versus Flacco. Nada's there. Suggs is there. It's the same type of team that they've had. And Baltimore won 2 of those games outright in New England and also would have won the 3rd game but for a Lee Evans drop in the closing seconds that 1 year. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
They should have gone to the Super Bowl to play the Giants. And I just think that Patriots mystique where they just don't lose at home and they're just so tough, the Ravens don't give a shit about that. They don't care. They're not scared. And I just think it's the worst possible matchup the Patriots could have drawn coming out of that wild card round.
The Ravens looked like a team that staggered into the playoffs, and then they played really their most complete game of the season in Pittsburgh, granted without Le'Veon Bell, but they looked like one of the top teams in the NFL last week.
Yeah, and they've done that. 2 years ago, they didn't look great coming in, and they went and they ran the table, and they were actually 9-point underdogs 2 years ago when they beat New England. That was one of the best bets I ever had. I thought, wow, 9 is way too much for this. Either team could win. The only thing that gives me pause and makes me not say, you know what, the Ravens are like a best bet of the year, is that this Patriots team is better than any of those teams the Ravens played.
They're more complete. They're definitely more complete. What makes me fear it is it's too obvious.
Right.
And but I am glad I did bet it early. I got it at 7.5, so I'm pleased with that. The over/under, by the way, has moved from 49 to 47.5 in the game. You see this high-scoring game or under?
I don't remember the exact score that I picked. Probably I'm going to say over, maybe, but I'm not
depending on weather, if it's windy or anything like that. But yeah, I tend to think over, and my oft violated rule is under or off.
Right.
I either bet the under or don't mess with it. My record on overs in my life, I believe, is 112 and 2,911.
Yeah.
Like, it just does not feel like a bet I ever win.
Nobody wants to bet the under,
right,
because you're watching the game like, oh, punt, great, and you can win the over. It's over in the 3rd quarter.
Right, of course. That's the problem.
Right.
With the under, what you want is one 2.5-yard run after another. Keep the clock moving. Don't get a first down. Let's punt and go.
It's terrible, and so I think that skews the lines a little bit because they know they need to give the public. But I really think a healthy Gronk, who is arguably a top 5 non-quarterback in the NFL on offense, and then Revis, is just something that they haven't had, especially obviously together.
I think it's Revis that makes you think totally differently about this team.
So I'm taking the Ravens, but I'm not super strong on it.
All right, let's take a look at the second Saturday game. That's the Panthers at Seattle, a line that opened at 11. It is still 11. I saw it at 10.5 in the middle of the week, and I bet it down to 10, and I took the Seahawks.
Yeah, what's funny is I initially predicted this game 23-13 Seahawks. And I published it on ROTOWIRE at like midnight on Wednesday night or 11:30. And after 15 minutes, I never, ever, ever do this, and it's probably a bad sign. I was like, screw it. I don't want to take Carolina. I don't like it. It doesn't feel right. I don't feel right about, advising this. So I changed it, and I wrote 31-13. I changed it to the Seahawks. And the thing is, the logic says take the Panthers with 11.
Yeah, right.
It's just, their D has been good the second half.
They've won 5 straight games. If you eliminate the 1-8-1 10-game stretch they have, they're quite good. They're 7-0. Yeah,
it's amazing when you
Yeah, when you take out all the losses, you're pretty good. Yeah,
except for those 12 years of your life, you had drug problems. You've lived it's like
you were nailing
it. You just take out the worst part of everything, and everything looks great. But I think the issue is they've stopped the run. They're missing Star Latui, one of their better interior defensive linemen, but they've stopped the run really well in the second half. Something they were terrible with at the first half. And Seattle, what do? They run the ball. They have this crazy misdirection BS offense. They can't really get to outside receivers. Sometimes Jermaine Kearse will streak down the field on a broken play and connect. But really, it's Russell Wilson bootlegs, Russell Wilson misdirection, and then power running. If Carolina can stop the run, and then play defense the way they've been playing. I mean, it just seems like
the only scenario that's it. You stop the run and you get a punt return or a big interception, maybe 2, that sets up a touchdown or a field goal, and you keep the Seahawks to 17 points, and then you can win the whole game, let alone cover.
Right, and then on offense, they've been running the ball well. Yep. Jonathan Stewart looks good. Cam Newton's mobile. Seattle's defense is great, but they're great at the thing that Carolina doesn't really do. Carolina actually has a tight end that they can target over the middle. The outside
Well, you're making a case for Carolina. Why are we taking Seattle?
Exactly. So that's where I got to logically, and I was like, all right, I got to take Carolina, whatever. But it just felt wrong.
This
feels like a team that has no business being here. Yeah, they beat a totally terrible team in the wild card round. They're here. They play a little better. But come on. This is the divisional Super Bowl champs with the #1 seed at home after the bye week with a good coach
that
versus
is
a bad
totally
coach.
Playing their best football of the year.
This is an annihilation game, where the wheels come off. So I switched it. I may come to regret that.
But if the wheels start to come off, they'll stay off because it's really hard for Carolina to get back into it. And Drew Carter, who's been on here a couple times, played 5 years in Carolina, tells you that he played in that NFC Championship game in 05 or 06, following the 05 season in Seattle. Couldn't hear the plays. Right. Couldn't hear Jake Delhomme deliver the plays. And you just get the feeling that Cam Newton talking to Kelvin Benjamin is not a situation that's going to solve it. They have to run the ball. They have to run the ball.